Can you relate to me when I say that I have had many times in my life where I had things that I wanted to achieve in life, I had goals, I had things that I wanted to work towards, but I just couldn't lock in. Most of the time I wanted to do things, but I just ended up wasting my time procrastinating, chasing instant gratification, always wondering if there would ever be this point in my life where I could just lock in on demand and just do the work when I actually wanted to do the work. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'd get into this flow state and I'd actually work hard when I actually wanted to work. But most of the time, I just kind of cruised through my life, wasting my time thinking, damn, will there ever be this point in my life where I can just make the decision to start working hard and then actually work hard and enter that flow state on command, right? A lot of you guys can probably relate to me pretty hard, right? Let me tell you a story. It's going to sound like a bit of a strange story at first, but trust me when I say that you'll understand how this story makes sense, and this story is going to make all the difference, okay? It sounds like a bit of an exaggerated claim at the start of a YouTube video, I know. But this might actually teach you how to actually lock in on demand and get that ability to actually start working hard when you want to work hard, okay? So let me tell you this story. As a lot of you guys would know by now, I had this phase in my life where me and a friend, we went out to the clubs and we became these pickup artists and we started to talk to girls in an attempt to, well, get girls into our life, right? We tried a whole bunch of different things. We tried a bunch of different techniques, pickup lines, etc. And at a certain point, and I'm not sure if we came up with this ourselves or whether we saw this tip somewhere online, but anyway, we came up with the idea to start approaching the girls as a completely different imaginable person. So I wouldn't go up to the girls and introduce myself as myself. I wouldn't say, oh hi, I am Rob and I work as a salesperson. But I would go up to the girls and I'd literally come up with an imaginable person. So I'd say something like, oh hi, I am John and I work as a carpenter and I live over there in that city or something. I'd literally make something up, okay? Quick disclaimer here, guys. We never actually tricked the girls into sleeping with us or anything, because I know it sounds kind of manipulative to lie about who you are in order to get girls. We never actually did anything with the girls. We just saw this as like a fun little social experiment for us to try it out and get over our approach anxiety, right? Okay, so we never actually tricked the girls into doing stuff with us as a fake person. But anyway, we approached the girls as a bunch of different imaginable persons. And we found something extremely interesting. The first thing we found is that if you go up to a girl, not as yourself, but as someone else, we actually felt a lot less approach anxiety, because we had pretty bad approach anxiety at the start, right? We actually had less approach anxiety because it almost felt like you didn't really have anything to lose because you were an imaginable person, right? We actually felt more confident going up to the girls and talking to the girls. And we also had a much easier time dealing with rejection. Probably, again, because you're an imaginable person, and so in some way it doesn't really feel like you're actually getting rejected, right? It doesn't feel like Rob was getting rejected, but it felt like John the carpenter or Bob or whoever was getting rejected, right? Oh, well, that character didn't work, too bad. Hey, let's try something else, let's try a new girl, right? And probably the most interesting thing, what we found, is that after we approached a couple of girls as John or Bob or whoever, we had gotten into that flow, we had gotten into that social momentum, we had gotten that confidence that it was now actually very easy for us to approach girls as ourselves as well. Acting like someone that we were not had sort of tricked or taught our brain to realize, hey, wait a second, it's not that bad to talk to a girl, and hey, it's not that bad to actually get rejected. We had literally learned to overcome approach anxiety and deal with rejection by pretending to be someone that we were not. And I know that this is going to sound like a silly story, and a lot of you guys are going to think, oh, but Rob, I don't care about approaching girls, I just want to work hard or do whatever. But this does not just apply to approaching girls, guys. It applies to anything. There is literally scientific evidence that shows that if you convince yourself that you are not necessarily a different person, but if you convince yourself that you have different qualities, maybe you convince yourself that you are more confident, you sort of temporarily pretend to be like someone you admire, right? You think about what that person would do in that situation, and you kind of try to identify with that character. It actually helps you to overcome anxieties and to become more confident and actually start acting like a different person. It's literally scientifically proven. You've probably experienced something like this before yourself. You've probably watched a movie or played a video game, and then there was this one character that was really inspiring to you. And then while you were in the flow of playing that game or watching that movie or series, you started to sort of identify with that character, right? You admired that character and you started to imagine, oh, what would this character do in this situation? And you started to sort of identify with that character, and that actually helped you to feel more confident or become more motivated or work harder or work out or whatever, right? You suddenly became more capable of doing the things that you couldn't do before. The moment you start identifying with that character, it's almost as if your brain suddenly gets tricked and you actually become more like that character, right? There are celebrities, like for example, Beyonce is a famous one, who apparently used to have some stage fright when she was younger, right? And she came up with this character called Sasha Fierce. And she imagined herself to be Sasha Fierce, which is a very fierce, confident character whenever she had stage fright, and then she would no longer have stage fright, right? Because she didn't have anything to lose, because she wasn't Beyonce, she was Sasha Fierce now, right? And Sasha Fierce was fierce and confident. And that helped her to go on stage. And after you go on stage as Sasha Fierce for a couple of times, it helps you to realize, hey, wait a second, this isn't so bad, and it makes you more confident. And it probably helped her to go on stage as Beyonce as well, right? Rob the salesman was afraid to talk to girls. John the carpenter wasn't. John the Carpenter didn't give a shit, because John the Carpenter wasn't even real. And after John the Carpenter approached a couple of girls and was rejected a couple of times, it helped Rob to understand. It helped the subconscious parts in Rob's brain to think, hey, wait a second, it's not that bad to approach girls. It helped me to become more confident. And it taught me that being rejected isn't such a big deal, that it's something that I can survive. I remember a YouTube video that I saw, I don't remember exactly what video it was, but there was this YouTube video that I saw that sort of taught me the same thing, but then about working hard. And it said, if you struggle to work hard and you're at home, right? You need to do homework or whatever, but you struggle and you just keep procrastinating, watching YouTube videos, playing games or on your phone or whatever, right? Change your clothes, okay? You're probably sitting there in your sweatpants and your hoodie on. Change it. Change into more formal clothes. Start working hard. And if you want to procrastinate again, you're going to have to take off the clothes, okay? So if you want to play a video game or start up YouTube, whatever, as soon as you click that YouTube browser, before you do that, you have to change back into your sweatpants and your hoodie. As long as you wear the formal clothes, you are now a hardworking person and you now work hard. And it actually worked. The moment that you put on those clothes and you start to sort of identify with a harder working person, you actually become a harder working person. You don't just change your looks, but you actually change your beliefs, and you actually get rid of some self-limiting beliefs, and you actually become more disciplined and start working harder. And as you do this over time, you eventually get to this point where your brain just gets used to being more disciplined and being a harder working person, up until the point where you don't actually need to wear the formal clothes all the time, but you just become more like this person yourself. Another thing that I used to do, and I remember this one very well, is that I would, what I would call, badassify myself. So there were things that I was afraid of doing, okay? I had pretty reasonable social anxiety at some point in my life. And I'm pretty sure that you guys can relate to me that there are always these phone calls that you have to make sometimes that you don't feel like doing, right? So whatever it is, maybe it's like a business phone call, maybe it's an appointment you have to make with the doctor or the dentist, maybe it's the tax people that you have to call, but there's always like sometimes you have a phone call that you have to make and you don't feel like making it, right? I would procrastinate on that phone call and I would wait as long as I could, and I would just feel bad the whole time. I would feel bad the whole day until I'd made that phone call. A lot of you guys can probably relate to me, right? So what I started to do after I'd kind of learned about how changing your clothes and changing your mindset can work is that I would change my clothes, and I wouldn't necessarily dress in something more formal, but I'd dress in something that would just make me feel more confident and more badass. I'd put on a pair of sunglasses. I'm not kidding. I'd just sit in my own house, in my own room, sunglasses on my face. I know it sounds crazy, but I'd put on some sunglasses. Sometimes I'd even listen to some music, just some rough music that would make me feel badass. And then I'd make the phone call. And I'd actually feel more badass and more confident. I'd actually feel like I was now someone that was confident and worthy and badass enough to make that phone call without caring what the other person would think of me. And again, if you do this a couple of times, you very quickly get to this point where you actually become more confident. You don't have to badassify yourself each time that you make a phone call, but you actually become a more confident person. So if you are someone that can relate to me where you've always struggled to lock in on demand, hey, I'm telling you, give this stuff a try. Okay, think about people that you admire. Maybe these are real people, maybe these are fictional characters, or maybe this is your future self, okay? It doesn't actually have to be other people. You can also think about what your ideal future self would do. And then just ask yourself, what would that person do in this situation? What would that person think? And what would that person wear or do or listen to or drink, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a full outfit, but it can be something like a ring that you're wearing. You know, it's kind of like the movie Inception, where they have this one thing to remind them of reality, right? Just do one thing. Wear a ring, or just wear one item of clothing, or maybe it's a cup of espresso, right? Maybe you admire some character from a movie or something that sips on an espresso when he's working hard. Get yourself a little espresso and start sipping on the espresso to start identifying with that character. Maybe it's the type of music that that character is listening to. Try to do something that puts you into the mindset of that character that you want to be. And ask yourself, what would that character do in this situation? Try to identify with that person a little bit. And it's probably actually going to sort of instantly trick you into actually becoming more confident and more disciplined and more hardworking. Just try it for yourself, guys. I know that it sounds crazy, but hey, just try it. Again, you've probably experienced this to some extent, right? You've probably had a movie or a game that you played before, and then you had like this little phase in your life where you actually became more confident and more hardworking, right? You've probably experienced that before. You can trigger this on command. You don't have to wait until you happen to stumble upon another inspiring movie. You can imagine that character yourself. You can think about that character and then start identifying with that character. You know, wear that one ring, wear that one piece of clothing, drink that espresso, identify with that character and ask yourself, what would that character do in this situation? That is how you trick. I'm not sure if trick is the right word, but that is how you convince your mind to lock in on command and actually, boom, instantly change your beliefs.